The smoke had stopped rising 2 days ago. Niva crouched beside the broken dome, her hands slick with dried blood that wasn't hers. She dipped the last of her water into the cracked basin, carefully washing the child's face. He didn't stir. He hadn't stirred in hours. Still here, she whispered, as if her voice might keep the cold from taking him. Round her, the remnants of the outer settlement sagged in silence. The once bustling biospheres were now half-melted skeletons. The wind carried the scent of scorched metal and distant ash overhead. The twin suns hung dim and red, bruised by atmospheric burn-off from the Morali bombardments. Niva stood slowly, pressing a hand against her lower back. Too much crouching, too little rest. The trees beyond the dome crackled faintly in the wind. She looked toward them not because she expected anything, but because it was all that was left. The forest had survived where cities hadn't. Wild and unyielding. There were no more signals. The distress beacon had fired. She had seen the surge tear through the sky like a falling star, but no one had come. No one ever came. Maybe they were all dead. Maybe the galaxy had heard their cry and simply turned away. She walked to the edge of the forest anyway. Niva came every evening. She'd stopped hoping for rescue a long time ago. But the trees didn't care. They didn't ask questions. They only rustled and whispered in languages older than her blood. She would sit on the moss-covered stone beneath the giant twisted root, the one that curved like a spiral horn, and she would sing. The songs were old Novan melodies, lullabies her mother used to hum while cleaning dried fish or weaving firegrass mats. Songs about rain that came when you whispered to it. Songs about love you carried in silence. She sang now, softly, for herself, for the dying, for no one. But that night someone sang back. At first, she thought it was the wind. It always played tricks, but the notes were too exact, too responsive, like a duet where each breath shaped the next. Niva froze. Her voice caught in her throat. The answering melody faded, drifting back into the hush of leaves, silence again. But it had been real. She wasn't sure how she knew that, only that her bones were certain. She returned to the forest the next night. This time, she didn't sing at first. She only waited, breath held, heart aching. But nothing came, just the wind, just the trees. So she sang, slowly, a different song, one her grandmother had whispered about, an invitation, a story song meant for the unseen. And again, the voice answered. His name was Solon. Though he didn't tell her at first, he didn't look like a soldier, or a rescuer, or anything the Concord would have sent. He looked like smoke poured into a man's outline, soft, translucent, edges shifting in and out of focus. He wasn't frightening. He was beautiful, in the way a dying star was beautiful, something ancient crumbling into light. "You're not Novan," she said, standing still near the spiral root. He stood a few paces away, his shape flickering like heat over stone. "No, you're not Morali either." "No." She studied him. "Then what are you?" He tilted his head slightly, a motion so fluid it made her throat tighten. "I heard your song." Niva didn't know what to say to that. He stepped closer. "It wasn't meant for me." "Was it?" "No, but I answered anyway." She nodded, not understanding, but not afraid. They stood together, surrounded by mist, while a branch above them creaked in the breeze like an old ship's hull. She didn't ask more questions. Not that night. Solon came every evening. They didn't speak much at first. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. Niva would sit with her knees pulled up, forehead against them, and hum, and Solon would drift around the edge of the clearing, half there, watching with eyes like burnt gold. He never got closer than a few feet, never touched her. She wasn't sure he could, but she began to wait for him. He started telling her things in pieces. Not facts, not answers, just moments, impressions. "I was part of something once," he said one night, lying across a branch, barely disturbing it. "A collective, no body, no name. Just thought, until we broke." He nodded, shattered. "Too much pain, too many deaths, we dissolved." She watched him. "You're not all of it anymore." "No, just me." She didn't ask why he'd come to her. She already knew. Because she sang. Because she remembered songs meant for no one. One night, she reached out her hand. Not to touch, not really, just to offer it. Solon looked down at her fingers, his shape shimmering faintly. Then slowly, cautiously, he stepped forward. He reached out too. Their hands didn't meet, not quite, but something passed between them anyway, a warmth like remembering, a pulse like old grief exhaling. Neva felt tears rise, sudden and sharp. You're lonely. Solon blinked. Yes, so am I. He moved closer. You sang for them, he said, for the ones who died. They deserved a voice. So did you. She shook her head. I'm no one. You're the reason I came. It was Solon who warned her of the return. He felt it in the sky, the wrongness gathering again. The Morali aren't done. Neva gritted her teeth. We have no defenses. We're ghosts in ruins. But ghosts can move unseen, he said gently. And you're not alone. They made a plan, if it could be called that. Solon would drift into the enemy paths, into the minds of their scouts. Not control, not hurt, just distract, confused. She would move what survivors remained into the tree-shrouded ravines, far from their craters, hide them, sing to them. As they worked together, her hand brushed his form again. It didn't pass through this time. Her skin tingled with the lightest pressure, like fog clinging after rain. Solon looked stunned. That shouldn't be possible. Maybe, she whispered, heart pounding. You're becoming real. He touched her cheek. And for the first time in days, Neva smiled. They kissed beneath the broken sky. It was soft, trembling, light as breath. Solon shimmered brighter where their lips met, his form stabilizing just long enough for Neva to clutch his shoulders and hold him there. When they parted, her breath caught. I don't understand you, she said. He brushed his fingers down her jaw. You don't have to. You're not here to save us, are you? He didn't answer for a long time. Then, quietly, I came because of your voice. But now I want to stay because of you. Neva blinked hard. You can't. You're made of something the galaxy forgot. He smiled, almost sadly. Then let it remember. On the final night, Solon stood between her and the incoming soldiers. Neva had led 27 survivors into the old ice caverns, hidden them with fire lanterns and salt smoke. Now she watched as the Morali marched through the forest, flashguns humming. Solon moved forward. He was brighter now, sharper, no longer flickering, no longer half here. The soldiers stopped, weapons lowered. They looked confused, stunned, and then afraid. You shouldn't be here, one of them whispered. You were extinguished. Solon said nothing. He only raised his hand, and the light that bloomed from his palm was not violence but memory. Song, Neva's song, carried on waves of radiance that bent trees and stilled wind. The Morali turned and fled. When it was over, Neva found Solon slumped against the spiral root. His form was unstable again, flickering with quiet pain. You gave too much, she said, falling to her knees beside him. He nodded. Worth it. Don't fade. You made me real, he whispered, and now I will give that reality back, to the planet, to you. She sobbed. No, stay. His hand cupped her face. I loved you, he said. Past tense. And then, like starlight burning out in reverse, Solon vanished, leaving only the echo of her song in the wind. The heat from the broken fusion lines never faded. It clung to the tunnels under the colony like breath, thick, electric, and full of ghosts. The machinery moaned in the walls, pulsing with half-dead power. Some called this place a grave, others called it a furnace, but Eni just called it home, or what was left of it. She lay flat against the steel grating, her ear pressed to the rusted pipes. A vibration hummed beneath her cheek, not just heat, motion. Someone was coming. Eni scrambled back into the shadows, clutching the multi-spanner close. Her fingers were streaked with oil and old blood, her breathing shallow. Another raid. No. The Morali didn't come down here anymore. Too hot. Too broken. They thought the tunnels were abandoned. They were wrong. A figure stepped into the flickering light. Not in full armor. Not in the usual black and red insignia. Not with a weapon drawn. He was limping, a burn along his left side, a clutched pack slung over one shoulder. His skin was mottled with the scaled texture of Morali soldiers, but his uniform was torn at the insignia. A deserter. Eni narrowed her eyes and raised the tool like a blade. Stop right there. The figure did. He raised his hands slowly. You Speak, she asked. His voice came hoarse, cracked from heat and smoke. Not well. But yes. Ini stepped forward, cautious. Why are you here? He looked at her without blinking. To break something. She hesitated. Something important. He added, something they're using to kill more of you. Ini didn't lower the tool. You're Morali. I was. So what changed? He looked at her with tired, quiet eyes. I started dreaming about the people I helped burn. His name was Luro. He didn't offer it right away. Didn't act like he wanted to be trusted. And he didn't ask for food or help. Only directions. I watched him from behind a collapsed server bank while he worked. He'd cracked open the control panel to the fusion vent array, tracing circuits with careful, ungloved fingers. She half expected him to get electrocuted. But he moved like someone used a pain. You don't have the clearance codes, she said after an hour. Don't need them, he murmured. Morali engineers like to hide backdoors. They never think anyone else will find them. You're sabotaging their extraction grid. Trying. You'll die doing it. He paused, turned to her. Maybe Ini didn't like the way he said it, not with anger, not with defiance, just tired. She walked away before she said something soft. They stayed trapped together after the floor caved in. A secondary explosion somewhere above them had cracked the beam structure. The catwalk collapsed, sending them tumbling into the old coolant ducts. Dust and smoke thickened the air. Fire blazed above. You all right? Luro coughed, voice ragged. Ini wiped blood from her forehead. Just bruises. Lucky, you're the one with a burn from shoulder to knee. Also lucky. She rolled her eyes. But something in her chest was shaking. Not from the fall. Not from the fear. From the way he looked at her, not like she was an enemy, or a survivor, or a rebel, but like she was someone who mattered. In the dark, time unraveled. They moved deeper into the ducts to escape the heat. Built a camp from broken paneling and glow lights. Shared water. Talked. Ini learned Luro had been born on a mining moon. Conscripted at 16. Assigned to maintenance. He wasn't a soldier by choice. They told me the Novans were hostile. They showed us pictures of your weapons. Called it a preemptive strike. You believe them? I wanted to. Ini didn't reply. Later, she asked, what made you stop? Luro stared into the soft green glow of the emergency lamp. A song. What? He looked at her. During the first wave, when we marched through the outer settlement, I heard someone singing. Not for us, not for anyone, just a singing. I hadn't heard music in years, and it broke something in me. Eni's voice was small. You don't even know who it was. Don't have to. His gaze didn't waver. But now, when I hear quiet, I think of that voice. She turned her face away, not fast enough to hide the tears slipping down. On the third night, they slept, side by side, not touching, not speaking, just lying close enough to feel warmth through their clothes. Ini wasn't sure how it happened. One moment she was fixing the oxygen filter. The next, Luro was beside her, brushing ash from her hair. His fingers were careful, reverent, like she was something he wasn't sure he deserved to touch. She closed her eyes. When he finally whispered her name, her real name, the one she never gave him aloud. She didn't ask how he knew. She only whispered his back. The breach happened at dawn. A patrol, perhaps, or maybe someone had tracked Luro's signature. A breach siren pulsed weakly through the walls. Ini jerked awake. Luro was already standing, tools packed, one hand braced on the duct wall. Go, he said. You can slip through the west exit. I mapped the safe routes. She grabbed his arm. And you? I'll finish it. You'll be caught. He smiled, faintly. If I finish it, there'll be nothing left for them to extract. Ini shook her head. No, not like this. But Luro had already kissed her. Softly, desperately, as if every second meant the world. When he pulled away, his voice trembled. I can't undo what I did, but I can make sure it ends here. Ini wanted to scream, to stop him, to say love wasn't built in ashes, but she didn't, because in that moment, she knew this was how Luro loved. By breaking what had broken others. She didn't see the explosion, but she felt it in her bones. A tremor deep in the ducts, a rush of air, a light that wasn't fire, wasn't heat, just release. Luro was gone, but the extraction systems failed across all sectors. The Morali above the catacombs withdrew within hours. No more energy harvests. No more colony desecration. I emerged 3 days later, skin blistered, heart raw, memory singing. In her hand, she carried the small token he'd left her, a scorched metal bolt, etched with both their names. She never saw him again, but she still heard music in the vents sometimes. A hum, a whisper, like someone remembering. And when she sang to the ruins, it was for him. Always him. The orbital greenhouse still spun. Forgotten by the Morale, bypassed by the Concorde, and left adrift by the colonists who once filled its corridors with laughter and soil song. It hovered silently above Epsilon Eridani Iv, a slow-turning cradle of broken botany and filtered starlight. Mira woke alone among its ruined vines. She didn't remember the escape. She only remembered the cold, a kind that crawled up through her blood, until she was sure her heart would stop. Then light, glass, humming. Now she breathed air grown thin and sweet, surrounded by dying plants that still tried to live. And somewhere, in the domes above, a voice was singing. Myra had always believed in patterns. Before the invasion, she worked in the colony's gene synthesis lab, helping hybridize edible plants with local Novan flora. She loved the quiet logic of it, roots like answers, leaves that solved riddles in sun and soil, life that obeyed her careful order. The world below burned now. But up here, pattern remained. Ivy still curled toward light, condensation still kissed the glass, and the voice still sang at dawn. That not in any language she recognized, not in any pitch the human ear should have followed, but every morning, like breath drawn from stars, it came, notes woven through the metal beams, sweet and aching and too beautiful to belong to anything that had ever held a weapon. Myra followed it through the ruins. On the third day, she reached the East Dome. The glass here had cracked from internal pressure. Shards dangled like the edges of a shattered dream, and vines crept up through the fractures like green veins. The air buzzed faintly with static and pollen. She called out softly, "Hello?" The song stopped. Myra stood still, heart fluttering. The silence was thick, listening, waiting. "I heard you," she said. Every morning, no answer. She took another step, past the fallen light fixture and into the tangled central chamber. It had once been a garden, she thought. Now the garden had become a wild, forgotten thing, ferns curling over consoles, soft moss hiding old nameplates. "I think you saved me," she whispered. The air around her shimmered like light on water. And then words, not spoken, not heard, simply felt. "You were cold," Myra gasped. "Who?" "You were small and cold. You curled near the hydroponic breach. I found you." "Why?" "You were still singing." She couldn't stop the tears. They began to speak in pulses. Not sentences, not questions, just fragments, glimpses. The voice was curious, hesitant, older than she could understand, yet soft as new wind. It lived in the greenhouse now, in the bones of the station, and the crystal lattice of cracked monitors. It had no name, not one it could give her. "Were you always here?" she asked once. "Tending a regrown basil sprout." "I came with the colony. Buried in your sleep systems, old, archived, forgotten. You were an I. Something like, not command, not purpose, just witness." Myra smiled, brushing dirt from her hands. "You watched us, you danced, in dirt. You planted things, you told stories to sprouts." Laughed. "We were trying to survive." "You were trying to love." That silenced her, not because it was wrong, but because it was to right. She named it voice, not a name in the usual sense, just a title, a tether. It didn't mind. They spent days talking through pulses of light, vibration, translated air pressure. It learned her moods before she spoke. It shifted the vents when she cried, sending warm breezes to dry her cheeks. It illuminated forgotten rooms just before she entered. "You care for me," she said once, curled against a repurposed seedbed. "You bloom in ruined places. That's not the same." "It is the only thing I understand." In the ninth night, she asked, the question she'd buried. "Why haven't you left?" The voice hesitated. "I cannot leave. I am woven into this station, but you aren't trapped." "No. But if I left, you would be alone." Mary's breath hitched. "I'm not afraid of being alone," she lied. "I am." The words struck something deep. She reached toward the console, brushing her fingers along the screen's fractured edge. "You're not just code. I was code. Once. Nah. I am music, you answered, and she had no reply for that. The glass sang that night. My ray woke to soft humming reel, echoing everywhere. The greenhouse was glowing faintly with pale biolight. Petals shimmered with impossible color. The atmosphere had thickened to perfect oxygen. The voice whispered, may I show you something, anything? The floor beneath her shifted, not broke, shifted, as if the entire greenhouse bent space itself. Walls fell away, starlight pouring in. Suddenly, she was floating, not weightless, but suspended, above the planet, above the fire, above loss. And beside her, a shape. The voice had built itself, not a body, not exactly, but a silhouette made of liquid silver and light. No face, no hands, just curves like music given form, and it hovered beside her, pulsing with warmth. Mirae touched it. Her hand met resistance, soft to trembling, alive. The voice flickered. I made this to understand you, to be with you. She pressed closer. It's enough. They moved together. No fear, no confusion, just shared gravity. Her body curled against the light. The light responded, gentle, reverent, curious, every movement a question, every answer a symphony. She kissed the shape where its mouth might have been, and felt her own heart echo in return. Afterward, she rested in the garden again. The greenhouse sealed itself tighter, purified the air, grew richer, stronger, somehow. The plants bloomed brighter after that night. The moss thickened. The ivy danced. The voice lingered beside her, in everything. Will we die here? She asked. Not yet. But eventually. Double quotes, yes. She turned her head, brushing her cheek against the moss. That's all right. Why? She closed her eyes, smiled. Because I was loved. And somewhere in the domes above, the glass sang back. The firebird crashed with a sound like morning. Flames danced over her fractured wings, sparks scattering across the shattered plains that used to be farmland. The colony's bones lay half buried in ash and glass, but the sky still bled metal. Rollo had seen dozens of skyships fall during the invasion. This one was different. She felt like she'd been chasing something impossible and failed. And Rollo, scavenger of the burnscape, couldn't help but follow her smoke. He found her in the twisted hull. Not metal, not entirely. The ship was sleek, silver, breathing like it once had a soul. The nosecone had cracked open against a broken stone formation. Heat still rippled from her core, and half her left wing was buried beneath a panel of collapsed solar shielding. Ralo walked slowly. His boots crunched on scorched glass. His scarf was pulled tight across his mouth, filtering the grit. He carried a salvage pack, a small blade, and no real plan. The cockpit door was half melted. He ducked under it and stopped. Someone was inside. Not just someone alive. Her wings were broken, real wings. Not engine ports or thermal gliders. Real flesh, real feathers singed but unmistakable. Her skin was marked with faint bioluminescent lines, golden across her arms and collarbone. Her face was bruised but still stunning in the dim light. She looked like a myth fallen from orbit. Ralo froze. Then she opened her eyes. Sen remembered fire. The last thing she saw was the flash of the plasma cannon striking her port engine. The last thing she felt was the cold spin of her skyship, breaking atmospheric boundary. Now she was not dead. A stranger stood above her, framed by light bleeding in through the wreck. He had ash in his hair, old burns on his cheeks, eyes like shattered glass, sharp, curious, but cautious. You're not Morali, she croaked. He blinked. You are, she grimaced. Do I look like one? He shrugged. I've never seen a firebird before. Sen tried to sit up. Pain flared through her spine and wings. She cried out before she could stop herself. The stranger caught her gently, helping her recline against the cracked panel. You're hurt, he said. I've got med gel. It's old, but it might help. Who are you? Rollo, scavenger, survivor, and you? She hesitated. Sen, pilot, scout, long-range relay hunter. I was trying to reach Sector 8197. Rollo raised an eyebrow. You were answering the distress signal. She nodded faintly. But I was too late. Rollo looked away. His hands moved quietly, pressing gel over her wounds. She flinched at first, then relaxed. The warmth spread like balm. "You're not too late," he said finally. "Why not?" "Because I'm still alive." Rollo stayed. He could have taken her calm crystal and vanished. He could have looted the wreck and walked back into the wastelands. But he didn't. He brought her water, heat packs, scavenged rations. They sheltered inside the twisted skyship, the walls creaking around them. Outside, the wind howled over the plains. Inside, they talked. Ralo told her of the fall, the invasion, the fire, the last stand of the West settlement. He'd been a cargo tech. He lost his family in the first blast. Since then, he'd wandered, helped where he could, and never stayed anywhere longer than a few days. Sen told him about the firebirds, not a species, not exactly, more like a culture born in the void. "We're carriers," she explained, wincing as she adjusted her wing. "We fly through the stars to bring messages no one else dares to carry." "What kind of messages?" "Warnings, truths, sometimes just hope." Rollo was quiet. "And your wing?" he asked softly. She looked away, burned, maybe beyond healing. They sat in silence. Then he touched her hand. Not forcefully, not FEARFULLY. Just to let her know she wasn't alone. They mended together. Sen couldn't fly, but she could teach. She rewired half the wreck, turning it into a working shelter. She helped Rollo upgrade his scavenger drone. In return, he scouted fresh springs, hunted for roots, and brought her things from the old world, scraps of songs, stories etched on metal cards, cracked fragments of a lost language. "Why do you help me?" she asked once. He looked at her like the question hurt. "Because you didn't fall to destroy anything." And that was enough. On the 10th day, she kissed him. It wasn't planned. They were laughing. She'd accidentally cross-wired the thermal pump and nearly vaporized his entire water cache. His face was half covered in steam, hers in soot. They looked ridiculous. And then she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. Warm, soft, unsure. He froze for a moment. Then kissed her back. Not hungry, not urgent. Just full of wonder. Like he couldn't believe she was real. They slept curled together. Her wings still broken, folded gently around them. His arms wrapped around her waist. Outside, the night screamed with wind. But inside, they were whole. Just for a little while. The Morali came back. Not in full force, just a patrol. Rollo saw the glint of their scouts on the horizon. To fast, to cruel. They wouldn't care if Sen was wounded, wouldn't care if he was harmless. They'd raise the ship to metal and salt. "We have to move," he said. Sen tried to stand. She collapsed. "Go," she whispered. "Leave me." "No, they'll kill you." "I don't care." She looked up, eyes wet. "Rollo, you didn't fall just to die here." He grabbed the comm crystal from her gear. "This still work?" "Barely, but it can boost signals for 10 seconds. Then it burns out." "Enough," he said. He ran. He activated the crystal at the last possible second. Not for himself, for her. "This is a call to the remnants of the Firebird circuit," he shouted into the wind. "A scout is down in quadrant for B. She's alive. She's hurt. She needs rescue." A pulse of light shot into the sky. Then the crystal shattered. Rollo stood alone. Then the Morali found him. They didn't kill him, but they broke his leg, shattered 2 ribs, dragged him back to their mobile post for interrogation. He didn't answer their questions, not even when they threatened worse. He just laughed and said, "She's gone already." He was right. The Firebirds came, not in ships, not in fleets. In light. 6 of them. Wings like solar flares, voices like thunder. They didn't fight the Morali. They erased them. Rollo never saw it. Not exactly. He passed out before the first pulse. But when he woke, Sen was there, her wings still broken, but her eyes bright with fury and joy. She touched his face. "I told them what you did." He smiled weakly. "You still have a voice, only because you gave me time." They took him with them. He couldn't fly, but she could carry him. They left the burnscape together. Sen and the scavenger who gave his voice to the stars. Lan followed the tremors, not the ones above where the sky still burned, where scavenger fires crackled and warships sometimes roared past in the upper atmosphere. No, these tremors came from below. From under the earth, under the bones of the first settlement, under everything humanity had tried and failed to hold. He felt them in his soles, heard them in the stone dot, and he knew something was still alive down there. Lon had always lived in silence, that not by choice. His voice had never come not from illness or accident, just absence. He learned to speak with his hands, with his eyes, with gestures and notes carved into old stone slates. It didn't matter much anymore. Most people who could hear were dead now. He stayed beneath the colony's edge, near the cliffs where hydrodrones once carried water to higher farms. Now the cliffs were blackened, the farms ash dot, but underground, something still moved. And one day, Lon found the root dot. It was smooth, green dot almost glowing. He brushed aside layers of dry clay and found a tangle of living things. Not plants at least, not any he recognized. The vines were braided, almost intentionally, as if grown with purpose. No soil fed them, no water, just heat and memory. When he touched one, it hummed. Not sound. Something deeper. Like thought made into current. He returned. The next day, and the next, until it began to answer. Her name was Varen. Not that she remembered it clearly at first. The connection came slowly, through flashes of sensation and emotion. Falling stars, warm soil, a voice long buried. She had once been a botanist, she thought, or something like it. Part of the earliest human colonists, when the first settlers had come to Epsilon Aerodani IV, they'd planted a forest, seeded by hand, with species spliced from Earth and Novan origins. Then war came, the firestorms, and everyone died, except her. Or, not exactly. Her body died, but her mind didn't. It stayed in the root system, trapped, preserved, remembered. Lon didn't run. He stayed, listened, learned her. They built their language from silence. He would sit beside the roots, his back against the cold stone, and tap rhythms with his fingers. She answered with warmth, vibrations, pulsing lights that crawled up the vine network and flickered in old growth glass. Soon, they were speaking. Not in words, in memory. He showed her how he saw the world, now ruined, scorched, dying but stubborn. She showed him how it once had been ripe, green, sung through with purpose. They fell in love, quietly. Not the kind of love that roared or burned. The kind that crept in like moss and curled around the ribs until it felt like breath. Varen taught him to grow again. They left, she said once, through a flicker of vines near his cheek. They all left, or died, or forgot. But the seeds are still here. Lon's eyes widened. He helped unearth them, ancient pods, sealed in crystal, each coated with whole ecosystems. The last legacy of the first settlers, abandoned, but not lost. With Varen's guidance, he brought them to the surface. He planted them by hand, even when the ash made his fingers crack. He hauled water from deep cisterns, filtered through melted rock, and one day green broke the surface. Not just weeds, not survivors. But life. Others came. Slowly at first. A young scavenger from the eastern belt who saw the seedlings and wept. A tired medic with burns down her left side who offered her tools in exchange for shade. A pair of orphans who brought broken tech and rebuilt it as solar rays. Lon didn't say much. He only showed them the way the roots moved, the way Varen lit up when someone touched her gently, the way life remembered what it was even after everything tried to erase it. Varen grew stronger. Her thoughts clearer, her voice in the vines more solid. One night, she asked him to lie down beside the oldest root. He did. She wove light across his face, tracing his cheek. I wish I could touch you. He placed his palm against the vines, breathed slow. Then he carved something into the stone beside her root. 5 letters, one name. Varen. When the storms returned, remnants of the Morali weapons stirring old atmospheric fault lines, the garden held, not because of shields, not because of weapons, but because the roots had remembered. They shifted, wrapped, protected, redirected the lightning into deep-seated conductors that Varen had once helped design. They survived because of love. The final Firebird returned, not send. Another. And with her came the call. The galaxy is watching, she said, hovering in the garden courtyard. They saw the signal. They saw the ships. They saw what the humans became. Lon tilted his head. He didn't answer, only gestured. The Firebird saw the vines, the people working beside them. The blooming canopy. She bowed and left. The Concord returned not with orders, but with offerings. Not laws, but seeds. They asked nothing. They watched, and they learned. Varen never returned to flesh, but she lived in the roots. And Lon stayed by her side, growing old as the world above healed. He spoke in silence. She answered in light. And beneath their hands, life bloomed again. Final scene, a child walks through the reborn forest, their bare feet soft against moss. They hum a song their father once sang. Ahead of them, the roots pulse gently beneath the earth. In the distance, vines bloom against a stone slab. 5 letters carved deep. Varen, and beside it, a single line in the old scavenger script. She never left.